Hey all, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and we're going to do a photo walk today. And while I'm doing that, I want to go over some things I like and don't like about the Nikon Zf camera. I'm doing three things today while I'm here. One, I'm getting in my 10,000 steps for my photo walk. Two, I'm working on my photo project for my hats. That's super loud. And three, I'm also harvesting images for my construction project down here at 4th, and I'm probably going to make my way far enough down to go get photos of Chattanooga Bank Building while I'm down there. If there's nothing really noticeably different about the CBC or CBB, whatever, the one on 7th, then I'm probably not going to photograph it this week, because they've gotten to where they're like working on finishing out the interior, so it doesn't really show a lot of change. This, on the other hand, has been showing dramatic change, so I'm getting my photo of this week. They are almost to the point of opening this place. They're working on the sidewalk on this side. Looks like they've got the sidewalk on this side finished. They've got the trees planted. Yeah, they're doing the landscaping now. The sidewalk's poured, I see over there. And I can see furniture like up here on this little observation deck, I guess you call it. You can see a bunch of the windows open, and it's fully furnished and ready to go. So it's getting there. I'd say the first thing that I would start with, I think what I'm going to do is start with the detractors of the Nikon Zf as far as I'm concerned, because I've used it long enough now to kind of get past the honeymoon phase, and I'm able to objectively look at the camera and the faults that I have found with it from what I do with it. You know, no one, in my opinion, is going to have a perfectly unbiased review, because they don't use literally every function in the camera. The camera is loaded with functions that I'll even never enable. It's just fact. But from the use case that I've had, I can give you my opinion of how the camera performs for me. To be perfectly honest, I've got a good bit of money sunk in this camera, and because of that, I think it's almost impossible to be 100% unbiased. But I'll do the best I can, because the camera has a large feature set that I do enjoy using, and maybe that biases my opinion too. Like, the external control layout and functionality is spot on for me. I like having an exposure compensation dial where I don't have to hit a button like I do on my Leicas to get to it. That's a function that, well, on the SL2, it's on the multi-wheel, so that's kind of convenient there. At the end of the day, there's a dedicated knob on the ZF for that. And it's got the shutter speed and the ISO on dials as well. And of course, aperture's not on a command dial on the outside, because it should be on the lens. And when I shoot vintage lenses, that's where I find the aperture. But on like this, I'm running the 51.8S lens right now, so it's a command wheel in the front of the camera. And it has enough of that functionality to make it useful, but not so overwhelmed with controls that it's busy, if that makes sense. I like having enough buttons to reach the functions, the minimum amount of functions I like to use, but like Sony cameras are just overwhelmed with buttons. And Fujifilm cameras aren't far behind. They have a significant quantity of buttons on their cameras too. At the end of the day, I only need 3 or 4. So for me, that's what I liked about the Leica SL2 and the Leica CL, was the minimalist, I guess is the right word, layout of the cameras. And the ZF is very similar to that. All that being said, the camera chassis in design, I guess you would say, the native camera body is not ergonomically pleasing to me. I have to shoot it with the small rig grip added to it. Once I add the grip to it, the camera body feels perfect in my hand, but without the small rig grip on there, it's really difficult to do, and you get hand fatigue. It's interesting because this parking lot that you see right here, that has license plate readers in use, used to be Genghis Grill and Cheeseburger in a building that were co-joined. The bricks you see in the rubble over here is what's left of those buildings. I have a picture of the day the front of the Cheeseburger building fell off onto the sidewalk right here. Just fell off the front of the building and landed on the sidewalk, made a big pile of rubble. They condemned the buildings and then tore them down. But yeah, those bricks are all that's left of those buildings right there. Yeah, that was a sad day. Something I didn't think I was going to like as much as I do is the flip out screen. I like the fact that it allows me to shoot vertically oriented photos by just like flipping it out, and it's at an angle. I can hold the camera down and get down low and get photos like that, and it doesn't cause me a lot of problem. It's a lot easier to use than I thought it would be. And it also allows me to do waist level shooting, which is very unobtrusive. I've noticed with like street photography people, like taking photos of people, when you're looking down at the camera, they don't seem to pay you near as much attention as it is if you're looking at them through the viewfinder. It seems to help. With that being said, the flip out screen is more fragile than a tilt up screen. Just by the nature of the hinge design, you have to watch out for it and be very, very deliberate in its use, or you risk breaking it. Because once it's flipped out 90 degrees, it's exposed and it's just a little plastic hinge that it's mounted on, and it wouldn't take much to break it off the camera. Those are the really only detractors I can come up with. I mean, the camera's not super heavy. Battery life is excellent. It's so good, in fact, that I forgot to bring a spare battery with me, and I better check that and see how much battery energy is left. Fortunately, I'm not far from the truck and I can run down there and get a battery real easy, but it's got, like I said, great battery life. The image quality is phenomenal. The image stabilization is phenomenal. The autofocus is phenomenal. What's not to like? I mean, if you shoot video, get a video-centric camera. This one will do video, and I've shot some video with it, but I'm not super big into shooting video on larger cameras like this. It's a little difficult to do for me. I mean, it's a little clunky, and I have to figure out the framing and all that jazz. Because I'm not running wide, I'm running 50 millimeters, so you got to get back a pretty good piece to fill the frame properly. But it does good on video from what I've seen. The video focus is good. Everything works great. It being 24 megapixels, the files aren't overly enormous. It's hot today. I'm sweating so much. And since we're in the south, the sweat doesn't do you any good. So because it's so humid, the sweat don't evaporate. And now you're just soggy and hot. One of my complaints though about this camera is the fact that they put that micro SD card in it. I didn't think I was going to mind it at first, but you have to take the battery out of the camera to get to that card. It's so fiddly to reach it, and I'd never use it. It's there, but it's just too hard to find. So I don't worry with it anymore. It's just there. But yeah, I treat it as if it only has one memory card because of that thing, because of how difficult it is to access and to remove it to use it. I know I spouted off a whole bunch of rapid fire things I liked about the camera, but there's certain ergonomic aspects of the camera that I really like, such as the on-off switch being on the shutter button. That's a nice thing to have. Like the SL2 doesn't. It's mounted on the other side of the camera, and it's kind of it's a little fiddly to use. But this one, you can turn the camera on or off. It's just right there, just like the DSLRs before it. They mounted it as a rotary selector underneath the shutter, and it's just right there where your finger rides on it perfectly. I also like where the location of this function button is. Your ring finger sits on it natively, or mine does, so I can reach it real easy. And I've got it set to focus magnification for when I'm shooting manual glass. I can zoom in and get critical focus, and then zoom back out by hitting it again, compose the frame, take the picture. Something I've noticed more recently than before is lots of people sit in their cars now, and a lot, like for long periods of time. I'm gonna go around behind this Toyota, but there's a whole bunch of people for lunch right behind the camera. We're sitting in their cars and like sitting, I guess they're on the phone or something, but Yeah, they don't like sit in social places much. They just sit in their car, which I thought was kind of unusual. But what most people will assume is that the ZF is essentially a Nikon Z6 II in a different chassis. I would argue that it's closer to a Z6 III with the way the eye detect autofocus works. You know, maybe that's only firmware or something of that nature, but it works so well. That eye detect autofocus is uncanny. Ray Soldano put it quite simply. It's almost like cheating. It works so well. So in closing, I can wholeheartedly recommend this camera to someone who likes the retro look, feel, and interaction. You know, if you're going to shoot vintage lenses, this is a wonderful host for that. It works so beautifully well with vintage glass of about any manufacturer, because the Z flange distance is so short that you can mount pretty much anybody's lens to it. It performs well enough you can use it for professional work. I'm of the opinion 26 megapixels or 24 megapixels is plenty of megapixels to do professional work for the bulk of the work that's out there. Nobody will ever know you done it on a ZF retro style camera. It'll just work so well. So until next time, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and I appreciate you watching. Get your camera out and go take a picture with it, all right? We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.